coming in, but to keep to our schedule, we will begin. So welcome everyone. My name is Sandra Toes, and I'm the director of the School of Information Management. And before we start, of course, I want to acknowledge that Dalhousie University is located on Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. We are all treaty people. So we're delighted to have this opportunity to hear today from Dr. Guylaine Beaudry from Concordia, and I'm going to just tell you a little bit about her. But I also just want to say that I had the pleasure of listening to her at a conference last winter put on by Library and Archives Canada. And so I know we are in for a treat today, and I thank you very much that you were able to come here and speak to us. So this is also part of our information management lecture series. So I just also wanted to alert you to a couple things. In the winter, we are shaping up to have a very exciting lineup. So in January, on January 14th, we're going to be bringing Leslie Weir, who is our new librarian and archivist of Canada here, to give the Dalhousie Horrocks National Leadership Lecture. So it is going to be on January 14th, so mark that down in your calendar. The lecture will probably be around 5:30, and there'll be a reception as well. So we're very excited about that. And we'll also be bringing Dr. Joan Schwartz from Queen's University, who the topic, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying this right, is prestidigitization. Okay, exactly. So, you have to come here. But, so it's actually a topic, it's sort of at the intersections of archives and museums that are involved in these digitization projects, and her concern revolves around materiality and meaning and what is lost in so many digitization initiatives. So we're very excited, and that will be in early March, so March 4th, I believe, is the date that we have for that. So just wanted to alert you to those as well. And we are still very much celebrating Sim 50, so stay tuned for events that will be occurring around that as well. And I know this is a very busy time of term for everyone, so I very much appreciate your being here today to listen to this. So Guylaine, Dr. Beaudry, is the Vice Provost Digital Strategy, as well as University Librarian at Concordia University. So she has led the major renovation of the Webster Library and the transformation of the Chapel of the Grey Nuns Mother House into a reading room. Since August 2017, she has been leading the university-wide digital strategy, and I think it is unique for across Canada for the university librarian to be.
We're a few.
Yeah, exactly. She was previously executive director of Erut, a publishing platform for humanities and social sciences, and she has also finished her PhD. She was recently elected a member of the Royal Society of Canada and served on its 2014 expert panel on the status and future of libraries and archives in Canada, which of course is a subject near and dear to all of our hearts. And your thesis was entitled Scholarly Communications in the Digital Revolution, Analysis of a Mutation Period from a Historical Perspective. And one more message while we're talking about the roles of librarians and within universities and changes, I'm very excited to announce that our own university librarian, Donna, will now be known as the Dean of Libraries here at Dal. And that is a significant change that recognizes the equivalent of what a university librarian does to, across the university. And it also means that anyone who currently is has a position as associate university librarian will now be an associate dean. So congratulations to Donna, and we're very excited for this change. And welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandra, for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be with you today, to visit your beautiful campus, your wonderful institution.
We arranged the weather.
I'm coming from a very young university. Concordia was founded in '74. So I'm very, very impressed with you, 200 years. So today, as Sandra said, I will talk about academic libraries and digital culture, and specifically about the role that now I have at Concordia for the digital strategy for the overall institution. But just before, just a few words on my my path. So as Sandra said, I started my career after the library school. I started my career as executive director of a publishing platform. So I was the director of a digital library, and you see it, it's in Z here, where we have they have actually over 200,000 articles that are disseminated, most of them in open access. And some people are saying that I'm the mother of AUD, but certainly not the stepmother. So this is how I started my practice. And then on to Concordia, where I was given very early in my tenure, at the beginning of my tenure at Concordia, the mandate to transform this chapel of the convent of the Grey Nuns in Montreal at the corner of René Lévesque and Guy Street into a reading room. And in Quebec, every time we have the opportunity to transform a church or a chapel in a library, we are so happy. And I had really the privilege of doing that. And you see it from another angle with Casavan organ still working, and we tune it every year to keep it in good shape. And where those red cardinal big chairs are, it used to be the altar. So it's really a space that where we still experience the silence in the city, but a space that is devoted to research and learning. And this is really one of the projects. I'm very proud that our institution was able to do something like this. And then we continued with my team in the transformation of the Webster Library. And Kirsten, you were part of that with all the move of the collections, and specifically the journal collection. That we did a lot of work together on that. So it was a major transformation with the space. We more than doubled the number of seats from 1,200 to 3,332 seats. And we have in this library 22 different study environments that we created. You have a few there. We created a technology sandbox with virtual reality, 3D printing, and Arduino kits, and everything that you know. It's a very busy area of the library. Students love to be in contact with technology in the library. We have a visualization studio. So this is a work of art. It's interactive. It shows so little, only with an image like this, but it's a piece of art, of digital art that our students created that we commissioned to celebrate the end of the renovation. The Webster Library is a 24/7 library. We're always open. We close at night during the summer only, and beginning of September through the end of April, it's always open except Christmas, the day following, and New Year and the day following. Everywhere else, it's always open. So there was really something to celebrate, because we kept the library open throughout the renovation, open 24/7. And of course, all the good services that you are also developing at Bell, the dataverse so our first data set was uploaded recently. Open educational resources, so we decided to focus on e-textbooks for our students, and we have a strong support from the student community and the university to create e-textbooks. And with all this work that we've been doing, at some point, the provost and the president asked me, and Guylaine, what about working on a digital strategy for the entire university? I remember it was just before I went for my vacation in 2017. So I said, I'm going to think about it a couple of weeks, and we'll see. And I brought back a list of conditions for success, and they said yes to everything, so I had to take it. So what is digital strategy? for us. So we took the time to define what we wanted, what we meant by that. So for us, it's a plan of action for the adoption of institutional processes and practices to transform our organization and culture. Culture is a very important word here, to effectively and competitively function in an increasing digital world. So it's really, it's not just adding screens and buying servers and subscribing to softwares and platforms. It's much more than that. And so I asked my provost, why are you asking the librarian to do that? So he told me two things. The first was, you don't have a preferred faculty. You're the librarian for the entire university. He said you, but it's the library team as well. So that was one reason. And the other reason was that he liked the way we consulted throughout our renovation project. I can ask questions, answer questions at the end if you are interested in this, but there's not one decision that we made without asking our students or our staff. So it doesn't mean that we said yes to everything that was suggested. As you can imagine, if you do that, you have a Christmas tree, and it's not necessarily nice for 12 months a Christmas tree. So we have to make decisions, but certainly for every decision we had to make, we asked. So that he liked too. So it's why they asked the librarian. So what did we do? We started by doing an inventory. Everything that I'm going to show you, the first deliverables, are available on our website. So if you do Concordia Digital Strategy, you'll see everything. You see the timeline, the activities we did, all the deliverables, all the documents, all the data, everything is there. Okay, so I'm saying that once, and you can go and you'll see everything. So we surveyed everything that was related to the digital at the institution, and we created this tool. We conducted an environmental scan to answer the question, what are the ingredients for a successful digital strategy? And to the contrary, we ask our consultants to look at failures of digital strategy. Sometimes you work with consultants and you have an okay result, or this one is outstanding. If there's one thing that you want to read, it's this document. They interviewed the two, so there was one, and there are two librarians. One is based in Washington, and the other one is based in Oxford, UK. And we worked every week through Skype or Zoom. I don't remember what we were using at that time. And the result is absolutely amazing. They interviewed 12 leaders, not only in universities and museums and the industry, to talk about digital strategies. We had a public consultation, one-on-one interviews. Focus groups are important, but one-on-one interviews are really a good means to get really good information. And when you get to a saturation point, you go to something else. So we did that with students, staff, and faculty. We also had we conducted a survey for our students that GISC in the UK created. We were, up to now, I think we're still the only Canadian institution who did it. And it was extremely, extremely informative. You'll have some of the results. And we organized, because that kind of topic, the community needs to be involved and needs to share moments to talk about those questions. So we organized this speaker series, a present speaker series on digital futures. So we had leaders who on the digital industries, but also from AI, from the government. We had the ambassador of Canada at OECD who came. And this year we're doing it again with more speakers, because those events were also that. People are coming there, and there are lots of discussion after. So those are always good moments for the community. At Concordia, we use this tag, Next Generation University. We've been using that for 2-3 years. And this is something really that resonates with our community. So the digital strategy for our president and our provost is really a way to shape our university in the next generation university. So it's where we are positioning our action, and it's the vision that we have in mind in the decisions that we're making all the time. The next generation university meaning where do we want to be? Where do we want, how we want to transform our institution?
Our day-to-day activities are...
Sorry. So we collected all this information, and it was like a sea of data. I remember it was during the summer. And from all of that, we identified 25 projects that we could do. And we reduced the list to 11. And then we went back to the committee to ask them, what do you want us to do? So this very short 3-minute video is summarizing the results, the key findings of our consultation. And we used it at the point when we asked the community to comment on the 11 projects to decide which one we would do. So
our day-to-day activities are becoming increasingly digital. Technology has changed the way we work and conduct business. It greatly changed the way we take care of each other. Even the way we share thoughts, ideas, and memories has changed. The digital transformation affecting higher education is rapid and widespread. It will create many unique opportunities and has the potential to improve our ability to teach for tomorrow, double our research, collaborate, and grow smartly. As a community, let us take charge, seize every opportunity, and forge the new digital landscape of higher education. Together, we can transform to become a reference as a next-generation university. This is the objective, but what do we need to get there? First, we need a strategy, a digital strategy, one that outlines how we plan to achieve our objective. It will guide our actions as we move forward. Since it is our digital strategy, it was important to start by listening to what the community had to say. We organized community consultations consisting of group discussions, interviews, and creative workshops. Then we conducted a survey to gather students' expectations and experiences of technologies, and we commissioned an environmental scan to learn from others. From the community consultations emerged a few key themes. Improve the user experience of existing tools. Enable collaboration and communication in order to share expertise. Better leverage the tools we already have instead of acquiring more technology. Value in-person interactions. The survey revealed that 76% of students agree that digital skills are important for their career. However, only 29% felt that their programs prepare them for the digital workplace. The main recommendations of the environmental scan are: focus on people and be supportive, prepare a well-paced culture change, prioritize data literacy and data security, improve what we have, and ensure reliability of our services and tools. Combined, these findings have shaped our digital strategy. We need to aim high, to be bold and transformative. We need to optimize and leverage what we have. We need to strengthen everyone's digital capabilities. We need to focus on how technology can help people and human interactions. People before technology, and not the other way around. Our objective is set, and we have the right digital strategy to meet it. What else do we need? An action plan. So get involved and help build our roadmap. Engage in the process, and together, let's transform Concordia into a reference as a next-generation university.
So members of the community did contribute. We had over 160 comments and emails that were sent on the different projects. And so those are the 8 projects that I'm going to talk to you very, very briefly. The size of the rectangle is in relation with the amount of money that we are investing. It doesn't mean that, for example, the AR, VR, and simulation costs very, very little. It's because we have industry partners who are helping us, and but generally speaking, this represents the proportion of money that we ask to our executive team. So the biggest one and the most important one and the priority that was identified by all the deans is the process review and service redesign. So you can imagine it's a monster project. We are looking at all the processes where there's an interaction between the student and the institution and the university. We take them one by one, and we start by asking students, and it's currently what we're doing. We ask students where are the pain points. And we also work with support staff, with frontline staff, with managers, with professionals, and we bring all these people around the same table. And we have workshops, and we work with them on how to improve those processes. This is not a race. Sometimes, you know, we are in a political system. So the terms have 5 years, and we want to see results within that period. This is a project where it cannot work that way. It's a project that transcends the politicians or the academic leaders that we have. Concordia Hub, one of the key findings was that we have an architecture, information architecture problem, many platforms. People were saying or telling us, we do not work in silos. Our systems are siloed. So with this project, we're trying to harmonize our different interfaces at least. An innovation lab for teaching and learning. Open educational resources, I mentioned it. This is one of the library's projects. AR, VR, and simulations. So we are doing, for the first year, a module in VR for one of our online courses. And next year, we'll deliver the first course totally in virtual reality, and we want to deliver one per year for each faculty. Course recording, so that's an interesting one. The students, many students told us that there's one thing that you will do for us that will really be important for us is the course recording one. But on the other side, when we did the consultation, the one thing the faculty members commented negatively against was the course recording. But you know, I can understand as a faculty, do I want my voice to be recorded and copy paste and to say things that I did not say, and after that post it on Facebook or whatever. But at the same time, if I'm Sayaka, coming from Japan, I've learned English only 3 years ago, and recording my lessons will make a huge difference for me. And I know Sayaka, I know that she's a very brilliant young lady, but she needs those recordings. So how to reconcile those two perspectives? It's how we are working on course recordings. Orientation, how do we welcome new Concordians for staff, faculty, and students? And so we see that there's a lot happening, but there's no coordination. And students actually faculty members take for granted that students are able to use many tools, but in fact, no, actually YouTube helps a lot. It is what they told us. Digital capabilities, digital skills. The literature says that we overestimate very often our digital skills, but at the same time, we recognize that it is absolutely essential for us to do that. So how Concordia can help our members of our community, students, staff, and faculty to improve their digital skills. So this is at a very high level, and we're now delivering on all these projects. But why are we doing this? The general context: 14% of all jobs across the OECD countries are at a high risk of automation. 31% of jobs may experience significant changes. 83% of existing jobs require the use of a computer. And we see a disconnect between how students experience and interact with technology in their personal lives and how they use technology in universities. We have to follow what is happening. lifelong learning. More and more investment will be made. And we see often in libraries, we see that too, that the students are not prepared for university research. So it's what we see. Creativity and adaptability are key assets. About creativity, it's no longer acceptable for students to be passive consumers of content. Nothing can replace human imagination. It's what we're looking for as employers. Digital tools are enablers for what learners can create. And we want students to make connection between tools and the intended outcomes, not tools for the sake of digital tools. Our students are becoming more and more, and all of us too, storytellers. And about adaptability, it's going beyond technology. It is the capacity to intuitively acclimate to new digital environments. There's an interesting study, so another reason why we think that it's extremely important to go forward with this type of project initiative. An interesting study that was made by McGrew and Weinberg, reading less and learning more. So the experiment took place in 2017 and was conducted by those two researchers. And they asked professional fact checkers, librarians, journalists, history faculty, and students, the faculty and the students from Stanford. And one of the tasks was to ask to the readers to evaluate the source of an article. It was an article on the minimum wage. The site on which the article is published is the production of a public relations group for a restaurant industry. The fact checkers, the journalists, and the librarians got it in less than 200 seconds. But only 60% of Stanford students were able to find their way to the information. But very surprisingly, the faculty did not do much better. Only 40% of them failed to trace the information to its source. And those were history scholars. Mind you, they would have found it with print sources, no problem. But the way the skills that we need to evaluate the digital information are extremely different. So that leads to digital literacy that you're probably all studying, to transcend gaining isolated technological skills, to generating a deeper understanding of the digital environment, enabling intuitive adaptation, and contribute to the digital, what we call the digital citizenship, and learning about online etiquette. But there's something about this word literacy. So, Monsieur Camus, who said, mal nommer les choses, c'est ajouter au malheur du monde. Badly naming things adds to the woes of the world. Words do matter. Who are we to tell people, members of our communities, they need to raise their level of literacy? I have a major discomfort with that word. So JISC is using digital capability, and I would propose that maybe it's a good way to go. So this is about the why. Now going back to our survey, so we have this pilot survey that was organized by JISC. Now it's a standard program if you are interested. So we had close to 2,000 respondents. And again, the reports are anonymized, and the raw data is publicly available. So this is our high-level result. On the infrastructure side, we're not doing too bad, even if, 84% of reliable Wi-Fi. When you think that Wi-Fi is probably at the bottom of the Maslow pyramid, it's not enough. But surprisingly, on the other side, up-to-date stuff for the teaching and learning, what's happening in the classroom. Students would like to see improvement. 45% only for the up-to-date software. Preparation for digital workplace, only 29%. Quality of digital teaching and learning, 59%. There's a lot to be to be made. When we ask students to provide examples of digital tools, you see what's coming up. If you're a faculty member and you don't know what Khan Academy is, please Google right now. It's extremely important. So if you put together YouTube, TED Talks, Khan Academy, what else do we have? Only those, maybe Coursera a bit. Can you imagine how the videos are important for our students? We're known in Canada to be the top in the world. We love videos, and our students the same. Are we using videos in how we are teaching our students in collaboration with our users in all kinds of libraries? Maybe not enough. So I'll go through a few slides, and I won't read everything, but just to bring your attention on a few items. Only 37% of our students, or the respondents, of course, consider that our university helps them to stay safe online. 34% agree that Concordia protects their data privacy. A lot to be done. Digital skills are important in my children's career, 76%, but only 29% feel ready. That's really one that I was not expecting. I have regular opportunities to review and update my digital skills, only 33%. Before I started my course, I was told what digital skills I would need, 26%. It's where they tell us YouTube helps a lot. Preference in digital learning, so that one I love to show to faculty members. I am more independent in my learning. 77% of our students consider that digital helps them to be more independent. I can fit learning into my life more easily, 72%, and I enjoy learning more, 65% of them. So how are we going to do this? So first, setting the goal, and this is really for actually everything we do, but it can be perceived as a huge mountain. Where are we starting? Big and bold long-term goals that everyone will want to follow. That's really something important. Being offensive, not defensive. Offensive means new demands, new services, creating the new. Defensive, improving what we already do, incremental improvements. You're not going to transform anything if you take that route. Transformational action, don't be afraid or shy or modest. And it has to be at the level of the community. Don't be seduced by the wrong quest. This is something that we see often. What will really have an impact? What will resonate with the community? What do we collectively want to do versus one person wants to do something, even if it's the president. I'm sorry, but a university or a community or a group, even in the private enterprise, it starts with the base. The two have to connect, but it starts with the base. Versus, starting with the answer. Starting with the answer being, we need to buy this subscription to this platform or this thing, and then we'll do the reverse engineering to implement it. We all have examples in alphabetical order, I'm sure, of that kind of things. Thinking differently in the post-digital era, that we are referring to more and more. This is the most important ingredient, I think, for the digital transformation. Thinking the same leads to use a new technology to do more of the same. Gutenberg's Bible, 42-line Bible, 1450 around. Someone who doesn't know its history of the book would think that it's a copyist who did that. But those types were shaped by imitating the handwriting of the copyist of the Rhine Valley in Germany. Philosophical transaction. the first issue, 1666 actually, because there was a battle with the French, the journalists. The first one is the French one. But see, so this is an article, but it's in the form of a letter. Because what were they doing before? They were exchanging letters. So we take the shape of a journal to put the editorial genre letter, and then it starts to evaluate. And at the end of the 17th century, 18th century, even more, we see real articles like that. What is the biggest barrier to digital transformation? We are. Our organizations are not fast enough. They're not agile and nimble enough. And, we have to work with the perception of libraries that are somewhat dated. We are the highest barrier to change. Then we can ask the question about the future of our institutions. Can we do without them? Can we succeed in changing them a little bit at a time? Can we build a new kind of institution from scratch? Or should we build new kind of institutions and move people in them when we are ready? Or should we talk with our users a lot to understand their needs and transform our processes, our policies, our services, and give them what they need to thrive, to contribute to the betterment of our society through education and access to quality information? Why is this going to succeed where others fail? Are we going to keep all our services and have that we have been offering since the beginning of the web and add a layer of cool stuff on top of it? It is very often what we do. Look in our organizations. From Amazon to Uber, disintermediation and self-service are the key words, and we all love it. What is the impact for our library? Will we continue to invest most of our energy and money on one-on-one interactions? This one is so disturbing for me. I love the one-on-one intervention. At the same time, we now have the possibility to have a massive impact on many more people. What kind of balance do we need to establish between the two? Or should we simply let it go and leave it to the next generation? No. It's all politics. Of course it is. Of course. And politics is not a dirty word. All our libraries are in political systems. All of them. In universities, public libraries, in the cities. Everywhere you have a library, you have a political system. Top-down, bottom-up, community-driven, all these approaches work. Just need to find the right one for what you have to deliver. This kind of mandate, as the university librarian, you can imagine that there's an ecosystem, there's an institution there's a CIO, there are many other people who could be interested in these questions. So yes, there were some adjustments to be made. The CIO at Concordia, when they told me, I guess your role is like the chief digital officer that we see in the industry. I say, yes, it's exactly that. I don't want your job. And those things must be said. I don't want your job. I'm a librarian. And I say, if we're successful, 3-4 years from now, we won't need a vice provost digital strategy anymore. It's a transition that we need to make. But I don't want your job, but I need that we work together. We must work together. Politics. A good project always finds its budget. Don't be anchored by money. Perceived lack of budget is a major inhibitor. It is the easiest way to do nothing, and it's the best excuse to justify inaction. There's always a way to push a good budget, a good project. A good project always finds its budget. Breaking silos is something else that we need to do, but what does it mean? when I was saying a few minutes ago, you add a layer of cool stuff. Sometimes you see the kids or the newbies, the cool kids are doing the fun stuff, and we are not. This is also something that we need to be very careful in our institutions. The moonshot and doing the basics right. So then, hence the balance between the moonshot, a shared vision for collective excellence, communicated consistently but differently to the board members and to the frontline staff and the students and those who are delivering on the projects, having different discourses, but always about the same thing. And doing the basics right. For example, the admission process is broken, we fix it. It's not VR, but it's absolutely fundamental to fix that process, because you cannot just have the cool stuff and not having the basics right. Brigitte Cassin, she's a French philologist and philosopher. She's the 5th woman to be elected at the Académie Française 2 years ago. And she says, quality is becoming an emanating property of quantity. It's because we have a lot of stuff that we think that it's quality. Hence my suggestion to the following moonshot, having a search engine ranking according to quality with as much neutrality as possible. That's an example of a moonshot. Sofia Umojanovo, if you haven't read her book, Algorithm of Oppression, run to get it. It's really a fantastic book. Traditional media misrepresentation, especially for Black African Americans, have been instantiated in digital platforms such as search engines, and that itself has been interwoven with the fabric of American culture. Algorithms are and will continue to be contextually relevant and loaded with power. And this guy, Jan Philipp Albrecht, Kirsten knows him, a German MP at the European Parliament, Green Party. He is the guy behind the General Data Protection Regulation, the famous GDPR. He had to convince a majority of his colleagues to do this. And he was, there were lobbies all around him, the GAFA. His report, his pre-report of the GDPR had 3,000 amendments. It was an absolute record. He did not give up. He continued. As chief negotiator for the European Parliament, he played a significant role in the legislation to produce the GDPR that uniformly governs data protection legislation across the Europe since May 2018, including in our country for European citizens. So this new law, a European law, requires companies to collect and store only the minimum amount of user data needed to provide specific and stated service. The European law requires companies like Facebook and Google to use clear and plain language to explain how they will use their users' personal details. And the companies must also provide information about what other kinds of entities users' data will be shared with. And they also have to share with individuals the data they have on them. This achievement seems much more difficult compared to what we need to accomplish in our milieu with the publishing oligopoly, don't you think? What about another moonshot? Working at the international level with 4 or 5 consortia to break down the oligopoly of scientific commercial publishers. If he was able to do it with the GAFA, how come we would not be able to do it if we work together with Elsevier, Wiley, Taylor & Francis, Sage, and the like? Immobilism is on the move. Nothing is going to stop it. Edgar Faure, he was the president of the French Senate in the 1970s. This is often what is happening. We must embrace change. We must adopt an entrepreneurship mindset and experiment. We can't live in the past. The short term, it's interesting about change. Short-term change is always less than what we expected. We don't see day after day the impact of change. Long-term change is always more important than what we expect. It's a question of perspective. Think about the e-journals, the introduction of e-journals. The project Tulip, those who have 50 years like me will remember in the 80s when Elsevier started with Tulip, with the gopher. Do you remember that? And one piece after the other, and look where we are now. Another one, I don't know if you know that novel, the Leopard, which is also a famous movie. If you want things to stay as they are, they have to change. These are the words challenging an elite faced with ruin, which Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa places in the mouth of the Prince Tancredi Falconieri in the novel the Leopard. So bear with me, this, but I find that it's so much what we are, our current situation. The problem, I don't want to compare us to old nobility, but it is what it is about. When Garibaldi was transforming Italy and unifying Italy, the problem that the old nobility was facing was with the new Italian nationalism and the revolutionary changes in the state. So what they wanted to preserve their influence and their elite status to ensure that nothing is going to change. So the family in that novel had to accept the new forms of governance. So will we take that position? We want that nothing changes, so everything is changing, and we don't change anything. If we want to continue to do what we've been doing, then we adapt strategically, and like we say in French, we save the furniture. When you know the house is burning, you save the furniture, everything that can be saved to do damage control or salvage what can be, what you have, what you can. This is a defensive approach, a prone for an offensive action. And I will end with a call to action. Our dear Simone de Beauvoir. It's always a pleasure to see the photographs from Henri Cartier-Bresson. The present is not the continuation of the past. It is the moment of choice and action. It is time for major transformation in our libraries, technology, reconciliation with indigenous peoples, EDI, fake news, broken scholarly system, and the list continues. Our profession needs leadership. What is leadership? To me, it's the capacity to inspire an organization and people in reaching a common goal, to have an impact, wanting to make a difference, contributing to changing the world. Yes. Defining a direction and a roadmap to get there, finding allies and resources, doing it, delivering it. We are in public service, but all those words have a meaning. We are all leaders. Everybody is a leader, or should be. There's no need to be charismatic, and the ones who speak the less. Over my career, I discovered that very often they know a lot, and they may have the greatest influence should they speak. But it's your responsibility to speak out and say what you need. We deliver big projects. We are reaching our objectives, not because of individual leaders, it's because the right people are working together. So it means that when they are in your career, when there will be, and soon, probably sooner than what you expect, management positions, you feel you are ready, or ask your friends, because very often you think you're not, but actually you are, especially if you are a woman, and go. If you feel you have what it means, you go. It's a responsibility. And in managerial positions, you have more possibility to make changes. So fourth call to actions. No matter your institution or the leadership of your organization has a strategy, digital strategy or whatever, you have the responsibility to contribute to the transformation of your institution. Experimentation and entrepreneurship, experiment, play, don't be afraid to fail, practice extreme innovation and transformation daily. Really think that things can be done differently. That's a very hard one. That some services can be retired, that new services can be co-designed with users and developed in collaboration, and become a leader in everything that you are doing. I was a student, a PhD student in Paris in 2006, and there was a big protest from the students, the French students in Paris. And every morning I would go with my camera and take photos of the graffitis. And you have to go very fast because by 8:30 a.m. they all disappeared. They're very, very effective removing everything because they want a clean city. And this one I love. Nous n'aurons que ce que nous saurons prendre. We will only have what we will be able to take. And this other one, working, what for? So then, how to address the problem? How to define it? What is our role as librarians in all this? How should we be preparing for the future? We are, like many other professionals in the workforce, contributing to a revolution, and it's really what it is. We are actors of this digital transformation. In closing, I'd like to read a text that I've been working on in the last few years about what does it mean for me to be a librarian. The librarian's responsibilities are to preserve, collect, and disseminate the economic, human, and symbolic capital of libraries to meet the information and cultural needs of members of our communities. We take these responsibilities in the present time, in the face of our fellow citizens and contemporaries, respecting past commitments and investments of the community, and respecting the work of colleagues and our predecessors. Our actions are part of the future for the benefit of future generations. To be a librarian is to express loyalty to a nation, a community, an institution, a mission, a cause. We are committed to serving society, supporting discovery and the freedom of speech and intellectual inquiry. We are committed to promoting and advancing education, to reducing illiteracy, to contributing to break down or at least reduce barriers to access information and knowledge, and to being responsive to users' needs and expectations. To be a librarian is to promote and celebrate cultures, our culture and all the others. To be a librarian is to contribute to redressing inequalities. To be a librarian is to serve the interest of the public and the common good, and to promote first the interest of the community. To be a librarian is to contribute to changing by fulfilling educational, cultural, civic, and social roles by promoting access, exchange, and sharing of information while fighting against one-track thinking and exclusion. To be a librarian is to proudly express our expertise and to exercise leadership in fulfilling our mission within our institutions. Thank you.
We're happy to welcome questions.
Yes.
Questions.
Comments.
I need to start off with one very important one. Where did you get those red chairs that are on the altar? Those were fabulous.
They're distributed by Key Lauer.
Excellent, beautiful chairs. I will turn over to more substantive questions.
Thank you. Your lecture is a perfect segue into the last class, of course. Marvelous. I'm interested in weeks ago, did Nature take that word letter out of its journal because it was retained partially because of heritage from the 17th century.
Yes.
So that was 300 and some years before they decided, well, we're no longer going to call these articles or papers, we're going to call, or they call them letters, we're going to call them articles. So how rapid is change occurring at Concordia? Is it going to take 300 years to achieve what you just said?
I hope not. Yeah, it's fascinating to see. But you know, these. I'm also very interested in music, and you know, in contemporary music. I remember someone saying, you know, so this Shostakovich sonata has nothing to do with the sonata form. So why is it a sonata? It's because Shostakovich decided that it was a sonata by inspiration. So those letters in science were not letters for a very long time. It's a trace from the past that I don't know, maybe by comfort only that we
I don't know
keep
why
around.
they changed that label, but they did until about last month. They changed the design of the journal. They introduced a commission font named after a woman, a scientist, it's called Hiram, and they decided to drop that label letter and it's called Martin.
Yeah,
And that's 300 years.
yeah. It's fascinating, really. Yeah. No, the social time is much longer than the technology time. And you know, the book as we know it, even if you know Gutenberg printed his first book around 1450, the first book really appeared in the 17th century. I remember it took all that time. Even if the technology was there, and so it's a paradox because we feel that things are going so fast, but at the same time, inclusivity, social change, connectivity, it's not happening faster. I don't see that it's really happening faster. And maybe it's a good thing because we have time to think how to make those changes.
I'm interested in the consultation. Yes, it sounds like that was quite successful, and I think that we can hear you say lots more. One question I have is sometimes consultation only gets to people who are already on side and love you, and that's sort of useless, right? How do you do it?
Oh, that's a very good question because we faced exactly that situation. We sent what we call a blast email to all members of the community asking them to register because we wanted to have in proportion international students, undergrad, grad, faculty, blah, 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 blah. But then they're all sold to the idea of the digital transformation. So we took the phone and we called those we know are technology skeptics, and we added different views to our, and this is what the one-on-one interviews are allowing us to do. So we're doing that. One thing that we do now for the process review, it's like a chain. We ask the manager, who ask the front staff and the coordinator of teams, and then we talk when everyone is on board. We go directly, you know, the objective is to go directly to the frontline staff and say, come at this workshop, we really need your input to have a very good representation. But we underestimated the time it would take to have a good representation in our consultation of the different views and different perspectives. But yeah, because if you work with only those who are raising their hands, you're missing certainly a good 40, if it's not 50% of the ideas. Yes?
I have a bit of a selfish question. A good chunk of my class is here. And we studied a lot about process transformation, business processes in our class. And I actually, we studied it in the context of a hospital for one time.
Okay.
And we're talking about libraries here. And this was one thing that I was really challenged to do. I think think that the only experience I have that might be tangentially related is a conversation with someone you may know named Anne-Marie Croteau.
Ben oui, it's my dear friend.
Yes.
The dean of the business school.
At Concordia. And I asked her, I think, about e-learning technologies, and we were talking about this in the context of Molson. If you were to give advice, because you talk a lot about politics, and politics preventing this business process transformation, if you were to give advice to emerging librarians and librarian managers, because we give a lot of literature from a business perspective about business process transformation. We talk about this, that it's different from public institutions. What type of challenges, A, do they anticipate that are unique to this political situation? And B, do you have any advice on how you would sort of contrast the typical explanations in business literature about process transformation and the experience that you have as a librarian?
Yeah, okay, good questions. So what is unique about, with the experience I have and the different projects I was involved in, and as a librarian, because it's mostly where in the last 10 years I practiced, librarians really are devoted to their users. And they're convinced that they know what they need. They're really convinced. And they truly believe it. But actually, we need to go, take the information from the horse's mouth. And that part is extremely difficult. And it's even political. To bring the students in that case, or the researchers, or the, it's a parti pris. When an architect is building is conceiving a building, is doing the conception of a building, he has parti pris, he's creating a line or something. That's why I say it's political. To say in a library, you know what, we're going to bring the students in the room and our users in the room to build this new service. It's, I think it is, we're not doing that enough. We don't bring the outside inside enough. So I think that's, it's not unique to libraries, but I think it's a big challenge we have. We really need to face that. And processes versus the literature, I'm a big fan of UX, of user experience. And not working with a very rigid committee, but with fluid workshops and having around the table always the right people. And of course, having the process owners in a committee to make decisions for the implementation, but not working only with them. Really working with, it goes often, what I'm saying is, it's like a mantra for me, but I see that it's working. And I see the involvement of the communities. Finally, they will listen to us. But at the same time, it puts us at risk. Because if you don't do exactly what the support staff with her or his perception of how things should be working, if you don't go in that direction. So you need also to manage the change and keep that person in the loop to get to the decision. On the political aspect too, it's the time that it takes. I had good conversations with my provost and my president about that, saying that you'll see the fruits of that, but it will take probably longer than your term, and you have to accept that. So that is something to because sometimes we're given a mandate and it has to go out within 1 or 2 years. Sometimes it's possible. But with this process, I told them if we cannot take the time it takes for the community to absorb and deliver, find someone else to do it. I have the luxury to do that. I can go back to my library and I'm super happy. And maybe that's why too that it's going well. Other questions, comments? You're really a fantastic group. Yes.
I'm going back very early in your presentation to the new technology spaces and the VR headsets, the visualization wall. I'm curious about how those are being used. Are they demo spaces? Are they being incorporated into curriculum? Or are they purely extracurricular? What's the...
All these answers.
Yes?
Yeah, we have a series of workshops in the technology sandbox. Yasha is giving a workshop, for example, how to use Arduino that teach students how to do cat selfies. Selfies from your cat while you're away from home. It's just it's funny, huh? It's just so students have something to show in their hands after the workshop, and the number of workshops on Arduino. We even have a librarian working, Kathleen, she crochet. What is the crochet? C'est des mathematical. Comment je me rappelle plus? What is the those waves in math? Yeah. So she did the crochet with that, and she's giving all kinds of workshops. And the visualization studio is the same. So there are workshops, there are open houses, and if you want to use it as a researcher or a student, including an undergrad student, you need to be accredited. Because you have $650,000 of equipment in your hands, so we need you to know how to use it. So you have this between 30 to 120 minute training, depending on the level we get you, and then we give you the key and you have access to the studio. And they're super used. The sandbox is like a hive. There's always something happening there. We're planning to open on Saturdays next year. The visualization studio the same. The only thing is that we should have planned for more square meters. And the big question is always, why is this happening in the library? It's the faculty members, but not at Concordia. When I present this, I was at Université Laval in Quebec City a few weeks ago, and it was very surprising to hear the faculty members asking, why do you put that in the library? Because yes, of course, there are 3D printers in engineering and in science departments and so on. But in the library, it's really to give access to all students. We want to have our sociology student working with a biology student, working with an engineering student on a project together, and giving them the tools to develop their vocabulary to express themselves in the digital culture, really to democratize access to technology.
Okay, I think we have a reception to follow, so we will, I'll invite Robin to come forward.
So I'm Robin Nicholson. I'm a second-year Master of Information student here at SIM, and everyone is welcome to the reception next door following this. But thank you very much for your thought-provoking, very rousing lecture. And on behalf of the School of Information Management, we'd like to present you with this token of our appreciation.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so we can move next door. We have wonderful things to share.
Thank you.
Just hit escape, yeah. Where was it recording?
It was very nice to meet you.